going to and so lucky to witness. However, for now, it seems like everything in this area is quite hot and sleepy. So I think what would make sense is to head on out. The Buffalo's Hook waterhole is not too far from here. Maybe we'll find some action over there. I know if I was an animal, that's exactly where I would be. And we'll do a kind of loop around this general area, see what else we can find, and come back. Some great action between this mother and her youngster. So those are our plans. I'm happy that Tristan gave you a little bit more insight onto this leopard's hunting capabilities. He is definitely a wizard when it comes to the leopards of the Northern Sabi Sands, having spent so much time here. And we're really lucky to have him on board with all that knowledge of the leopards here. Very good. As you can see, she is fast asleep, taking it easy. And Tom, you'd like to know, how do leopards keep cool in this heat? Well, they pant, as you can see her doing now, just like a dog would. They don't sweat, and they kind of just seek refuge in shady spots. Sometimes they'll also climb up trees. If I was her, that's where I would be now. She's in quite a steep gully here, so there's not going to be much of a breeze down there. And there's quite a lot of vegetation, so she's almost blanketed down there. Whereas if she was up on an open limb of a marula tree, she would definitely be getting more draft, but it wouldn't be as comfortable as kind of lying on the ground. So it's a bit of a trade-off, I guess, between being on a more comfortable but slightly warm surface as opposed to being up in a tree where it might be a little bit cooler but less comfortable. Well, I mean, another thing about being up a tree is that she's quite full-bellied, so that full belly trying to balance on a branch may cause her a little bit of discomfort. Very good. Hopefully, though, later on we will be able to see her up a tree. I think she still has a portion of her kill remaining not too far away from here. Either way, I think we are going to get lucky a little bit later on, but for check one or two water holes, see what else we can find, and pop back in here a little bit later. Ah, well, hopefully the rainy weather up in the Masai Mara is going to cause the Musketeer Coalition to get up and satisfies Brent's urge to move. Well, we do actually have a great view from here, little window through the foliage, and what's nice about this spot as opposed to where we were earlier is that we're a little bit lower down, so we don't have a kind of bird's eye view down onto the animal. And when viewing and filming wildlife, it's always best to be as... And it looks like the youngster could be coming out to play. Oh, is it a kudu? Ferg just told me something was up, and that's why she's poking her head up. There's a kudu nearby. I can't see it. Can you see it, Ferg? Okay, so Ferg has just disappeared behind the bushes. But somewhere out in that direction there was a kudu. Now, a kudu is far too large for her to catch. We did actually probably have a look at that same family of kudu just briefly as we made our way in. However, a baby kudu would certainly be fair game for her. And I guess, like Tristan said a little bit earlier, she's definitely cashing in on all the youngsters. There's a youngster in amongst them. It's a young male. And she's up immediately. She stood up immediately, and that young male's just disappeared off into the bushes. It's not a newborn. It's actually probably around 7 or 8 months old. And the cubs also just popped out somewhere nearby. I'm not too sure where. We just heard the kind of bushes rustling, and it's also close by. So it's all happening here Thandi sitting up, Chitwa walking past. The cub just exploded out of a bush just to our left here. So I'm sure now that it is cooling down a little bit, we can expect to hopefully see a lot more action. And don't forget that there were those impala not too far away. She can be quite fussy, and so will a lot of leopards when it comes down to taking down large prey. I saw her walk straight past an adult male inyala not too long ago. She didn't even kind of consider taking it down, even though she probably could. It would be an almighty wrestle, but she rather didn't want to take any risks. No, I wonder now that she's sitting up if we can't get some better views of her. But I think for now it's probably best just to stay put. The cub may come out and want to start playing with her. So I think patience might be our best bet for now rather than moving about. It is also quite a tricky area to move around. There's a lot of thick vegetation and a little riverbed, the same riverbed that she's lying in, that would be quite tricky to negotiate. So let's just stay put for now. I also don't want to interfere with chasing any of the possible prey away. So by staying put, we're definitely going to have as little impact as possible on any hunting that she may be lucky enough to do, if in fact the meals keep coming towards her, which will actually happen quite often. It would be a very interesting statistic to be able to know how often prey walk into predators as opposed to predators actually seeking out their prey. But again, a very difficult statistic to work out accurately because these animals are very tricky to spend every waking minute with. Even if we had the manpower to stay out 24 hours a day, it's not necessarily possible to actually stay with them, especially in the thick vegetation of the Sabi Sands. I guess it would be more plausible in the Mara, where it's more open and less tricky when it comes to losing prey. Very good. We may now, I think she's just laid down somewhere else. So we were going to send you off to Tristan, but it sounds like he's just lost his picture. And there's a few areas on Djuma, the low-lying areas. There's one road, Inyala Road North. That road is also certain areas around the Mulwats, and it actually also depends on the individual vehicle you're driving. Each vehicle is configured slightly differently. So it's quite interesting, the technical side of what goes on here. I guess a lot of us, including myself, don't we take for granted what wizardry the tech guys in our team do to make these moments possible and make these pictures somehow get from here to you smoothly. It is a small miracle. So yeah, but there are a few areas where it can be tricky. Plains Rift, you mentioned how the camouflage is really doing a good job here, helping her dissolve into the undergrowth. And yeah, the leopard's coat definitely does a wonderful, wonderful job in helping them disappear and melt off into the thickets as they move about. Now, let me creep up a little bit here, get a little bit of a higher spot. Yeah, where she's laid down there, we're not going to get a view if I go around onto the other side. So we kind of have a... We're just going to stay put, get comfortable, and wait and see and when this cub comes out. And it sounds like Tristan's picture's back, so why don't you go and see how his quest for the female leopard is coming along. It's been a very pleasant and easy afternoon for myself, and we have managed to get ourselves into a decent spot now where we can at least see Thandi just relaxing, and it'll be interesting to see what her plans are for this evening. She could well just relax right here until the end of the safari. There's only, I guess, 45 minutes left. I'm hoping, I really am hoping that this little cub is going to come out and want to play with Mom, but it's still quite warm. So you may find that both of them are just happy to relax until the cool of the evening before they start getting up and active. Only time will tell. And the fact that they are both well fed, I'm not actually sure how much of this baby waterbuck kill the cub has fed on, but I'm guessing it would have nibbled on some of that meat. It has started to eat meat. But either way, Mom will be producing lots of milk because her belly is filled with meat, and times are good for them, so their bellies are full, and that'll also cause them to be quite relaxed for the time being. The ugly mermaid. You would like to know how are the... And they're going to have very, very little problems with dry weather. For two reasons. They don't eat vegetation, therefore the dry weather doesn't impact their food greatly. Although if it's very dry, their food could become malnourished. But if anything, it becomes easier for the predators when it's dry because their prey becomes weak. So it becomes easier. Oh, nice big yawn. It becomes easy for them to catch their prey. On the other hand, I guess there's not as much cover when it's very dry, so that may bode in the prey's benefit to a degree. But more importantly, in the Sabi Sands, where we are, there's a lot of artificial water points, man-made dams, so there's a lot more water. There's a lot of water. There's more than enough water for the cats to drink, and therefore the drought conditions, aren't really creating any hardship for any of the big cats, not that I'm aware of. For you, on the other hand, being a mermaid, it would be very, very tricky to survive here at the moment. You would be mermaiding in very muddy wallows. It wouldn't be much fun. Okay, well, we are not going to move a muscle. We're going to stay put until the end of the safari. But we're going to send you back across to Tristan, and he's about to welcome on 3 schools. So you may find he slips into a slightly different mode of guiding, and the rest you will see for yourselves right now. A beautiful, beautiful cat. But I'm trying to pretend I'm the cat and show you how well I can hide in the bush. But I bet you it's very easy to see me. My name's Scott, and it's wonderful to have the 3 schools joining us now. Bushes across to our left here. So, can you guys see anything yet? Can you? I'm teamed up with Ferg on camera, and as he starts to zoom in, it might become a little bit easier. But the cat that we are sitting with now is one of the best at coming to camouflage and hiding itself. Can you guys see it yet? I'm guessing you can. But you get a good idea of how well the leopards can blend in to their environment with all those black spots and their golden coats. And this is definitely... When it comes to sneaking up and catching food, leopard are one of the best, and they have to be very, very close to their prey before they run after it. The prey is very quick, so as fast as the leopard is, it has to be about 5 meters away from the prey before it attacks. And 5 meters is just the length of about 2.5 regular doors. So if you look at the door into your classroom, imagine it lying flat on the ground, and you put 2 of them together and another half of one. That's how close the leopard has to be before it pounces. Ray, you'd like to know if I don't get scared of the leopards out here, because can't they do anything to us? And even though they could if they wanted to, hopefully you'll see this leopard's tiny little cub a little bit later on, and that will give you a good idea of how from a very young age the animals get used to at them, all we ever do is just watch them. So it's almost like we really become invisible in their lives, because it doesn't harm you. Even as humans, you kind of will very soon not really take that thing or that person to... Oh, nice big yawn. That's a good sign. Hopefully she's waking up. Oh, no ways. Tristan's found something really interesting. Not with a leopard, but with another interesting predator. Well, she's just sat up, as all of you will notice, and she's essentially kind of just waking up. She would have spent the whole day snoozing. It's been a very hot day, and leopards prefer to move when it's cool after dark. And like I said a little bit earlier, actually I'm not sure if I've told the schools, she does have a kill nearby. She caught an antelope called a waterbuck. Some of that kill remains. That kill, that she may well call her cub out of its little hiding place. And if we're very lucky, we'll see this cub come running through to Mom. May drink a little bit of her milk. And she loves playing with Mom's tail. So, sadly though, I think she's heading away from where we last saw the cub. But I'm told she may have brought a little piece of meat from the kill into this area, and maybe that's where she's heading. Michael, you would like to know what kind of behavior we look for when looking for leopards. Well, usually it's, not the leopard itself necessarily. The behavior of other animals helps lead us to leopards. For example, if we hear monkeys alarm calling, or impala, a kind of antelope, even a lot of birds will alarm call when they see a leopard. So it's the behavior of other animals that helps us find leopards. It's a very tricky thing to do. We also spend a lot of time following their down to try and work out where they are. Now, I think she has pulled out a piece of meat. Or maybe she's thinking about it. I just got the idea that she moved some bushes, and often when leopards do have a piece of meat down on the ground, they'll kind of cover it with leaves and branches. And you see how she's moving through some quite thick bush now. She could be pulling out that piece of meat. There it is. It's in her mouth. You guys. Josh, you'd like to know how big is this leopard and how 11 years old. I'm guessing she weighs somewhere around 40 kilograms, maybe 50 at the most, which is about 100 pounds. So they're not very big cats. Not nearly as big as lions. A lioness, a female lion, will be twice or almost 3 times the size of a female leopard. So, sadly, she's decided to feed facing away from us, but she may move around again. Alex, you would like to know if black panthers are secretly leopards, and yes, that's exactly what a black panther is. But I think it depends on where you are in the world, Alex. In America and in South America, you get jaguars, and you can get black versions of a jaguar, just like here in Africa we can get black versions of a leopard. So we usually just call black leopards over here, but I'm guessing what happens in South America, where you get the jaguars, is that's where they are called black. You sometimes also get a very pale form. You also get not an albino, but a whitish color that sometimes happens. And it's not common, but you sometimes do get a kind of pale shade. What has Ferg spotted? Has Ferg got a surprise for us? He may well. Look at that! Well done, Ferg. It's the little cub. It's coming to join Mom. Hello, you. I haven't seen you for such a long time. And you... How awesome is this, guys? This is a tiny little leopard cub. We think it's about 3 months old. And we've been very, very lucky. We've seen it quite a lot over the last 3 months. And I'm guessing it's heard its mom crunching down on
her dinner, and the cub probably wants to come and join her. How cool. Well done, Ferg. And Tristan, who will see some really interesting behavior, and the little cub was very, very playful, and it likes to attack Mom, especially her tail, which you can see she's holding up right now. It's the perfect toy for that cub to play with. Good, well, we'll wait for this cub to pop out and we'll call you back as soon as it does, and we're going to send you across to Tristan, who's got some of this leopard's favorite food. Mom was hissing at her, not wanting to share dinner with her baby. So, very strange behavior, but sometimes a lot of things that happen in nature are difficult for us as humans to understand. So who knows why Mom isn't interested in sharing just yet. Maybe she wants to teach the cub some manners and tell it to wait a little bit before coming and trying to gobble up this food. And it is also important to remember that the cub doesn't only rely on meat, it's still drinking milk, and it'll continue to drink milk for about another 3 months. So maybe Mom's given it enough milk for the day. Time will tell. I'm not too sure where the little cub is at the moment, but it could poke its head out at any second, so you can help us keep an eye out for that. They with Mom. And it kind of varies. It depends on the mother and the cub. So it can be as early as 12 months of age. So at 1 year, the mother may kick out her cub, be it a boy or a girl, and then they need to start looking after themselves. Or it could be as late as 2 years. So it does depend, but on average, anywhere around 18 months, a year and a half, is the average length of time that cubs try and stay longer if they could, but the mother will usually chase them off because she will start getting ready to have her next cubs, and she can't look after 2 sets of cubs at once, and that's why she needs to chase off the older ones who need to start looking after themselves. And I guess it's not very different to us humans. We get to an age where eventually our parents will say, no more pocket money for you, you need to start looking after yourself. So this little cub's still got a long time before that happens, though. Oh, we're getting some great views of her nibbling on her dinner. And I know you've been chatting about decomposers with Tristan. Leopards are up against one of the world's most efficient decomposers, the fly. And a lot of flies will be buzzing around this kill, laying their eggs on it. And if a leopard's kill is big enough, there may even be a few maggots crawling around it by the end. Finishes it, because it can be 3 or 4 days if they catch something big like an impala. Ray, you would like to know, when are the animals most active? Well, because there's so many different animals here that it would be tricky to answer your question just with all the animals in mind. But with leopards, definitely after dark, under cover of darkness, and also when it's cool. So, and I guess that's kind of applicable to most animals, especially in this area that we're in that can get very, very hot and humid in our summer. It can be very, very sweaty here and hot, but in our winter it can be quite cold. Let's have a quick look on the left here, Ferg. Looks like the cub's sneaking up somewhere. I'm not sure what it's trying to catch. It could be trying to catch little grasshoppers. It could be practicing its hunting on something small like a butterfly. Or what are you trying to pounce on? Or are you just chasing your own little tail? Well, there's another little glimpse of the cub. I'm hoping it's going to come out into a slightly better spot for you guys to see it. But for now, we'll take this. And on the topic of little cubs and practicing their hunting, they are born with the instinct, ready to hunt. They know how to hunt, just like a lot of your cats at home may catch birds or squirrels from time to time, and their mothers wouldn't have taught them how to hunt. It's just their instinct. Hello, you. How cute is that? Absolutely awesome. Adeline, you would like to know if leopards are purely carnivorous, and yes, all the big cats of Africa only eat meat, and I guess that's all the big cats around the world, to be honest, other than very occasionally, just like, again, your domestic cats and dogs may nibble on a few blades of grass to make them, which helps them, it's kind of like medicine, you could say. Sometimes dogs and cats will eat grass to help them throw up, and if they're wanting to throw up, they may have some bones or some fur balls or something funny in their stomach. So that's why cats and dogs will do that from time to time. It's their own kind of medicine, but that's not food. It's just a way for them to clean out their tummy. Interestingly, though, they're not too fussy when it comes to meat. They'll eat tortoises, antelope, fish, birds, just about anything. Tania, you would like to know, how do I remember which animal is which? In terms of which leopard is which, or which animal is which? I guess it all just comes with spending time out here and practicing, but I don't always get it right, and sometimes I get it wrong and I get confused. Sometimes I mistake one leopard for another, or sometimes I call one bird by the wrong name. So I guess just like anything in life, if you spend enough time doing it, it becomes easier. So I guess that's the main thing to remember. We spend day in and day out here without too many distractions, and that helps us get familiar with all these different animals. What can that little cub sniff? I wonder if it's not sniffing where Mom was lying earlier. Their senses are so much better than ours, and that's always something to remember when dealing with wild animals, is that often their hearing, their sight, their smell, everything is just so much better than us. I can only smell tasty kind of takeaway foods or big restaurants that I walk past. But these guys have got far better senses than we do. Okay, well, we're going to race you off from this cute little cub to a beautiful sunset with Tristan. Well, I'm sure you had a great time with Tristan and the sunset and the starling. Now, Thandi's moved position, and I think she could well have moved the food away from the cub. So, again, very, very surprising that she's not sharing her food with this youngster, and she's almost kind of taking it away from her. So, I don't understand why she doesn't want to share it. Let's have a quick look at... I know the cub's just kind of slunk off again. It was kind of poking its head out, but it's heading towards Mom now. So let's see what happens as the cub does get closer to Mom. Earlier on, when the cub first kind of woke up and caught up with Mom, Mom hissed and snarled at her, which was really interesting because that wasn't the kind of motherly love I was expecting to see. But again, often in nature, some things just don't make sense to us as humans. Kira, you would like to know, why do the animals not run away from us? And it's a good question, because if we were to wind back the clock a couple of 100 years and we were to drive into this area, every animal that saw us would run for their lives. And there's two reasons for that. The funny vehicles we're driving around takes a while for the animals to get used to, and also the fact that our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents used to hunt animals, and that was how we used to get our food. So animals are kind of instinctively quite scared of people, and for a good reason. But here, in this reserve, where people can only come in if they know about guiding and taking people through the bush, and there's no hunting here, so we only ever look at the animals. And this reserve's been open for nearly 60 years now, so for 60 years we've slowly been getting these animals used to us as humans, used to our vehicles. And if you think of this mother leopard, she gave birth to the cub, and as soon as the cub was very young, we started seeing it, and the cub would see its mother that was completely relaxed with us, and therefore the cub learned from its mom that we aren't dangerous. However, if a hyena came onto the scene, Mom would have given that cub some warning calls and told the cub, be careful, there's some hyena coming, or there's some lion coming. But she doesn't do that with us. So even the cub now, from a very young age, is getting used to us. And we call that habituation. So they are slowly becoming habituated. They're not tame, they're still completely wild animals. And if we were not respectful, and if we got out the vehicle and walked towards her now, there's a good chance she would attack us. But we obviously don't want to do that. And all we want to do is... Oh, she's hissing and snarling. The cub has got a little bit closer. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see it, but Ferg can try and show you. There, you can just see the little white tip of its tail. So the cub's probably about 3 or 4 meters away from Mom, and Mom's not being very hospitable. Alison, you would like to know what is the purpose of the spots on a leopard, and it's to help them blend in with their surroundings. It's for camouflage, so that they can sneak up on their prey. And if they were just one color, it would be very easy to see them. And it's an important thing to remember with camouflage. Camouflage is not necessarily about color, but it's more about shapes. And you can see how all those little spots and rosettes, you can see one rosette there, which is kind of a round black circle with a caramel colored inside. It all helps break the body up into lots of little pieces. So with all the leaves and branches and all the different colors on the leopard, it makes it very difficult for anything to spot them. Whereas if they were just one color, it would be definitely a lot easier to work out their shape. Now the cub's slowly trying to creep closer to Mom, but Mom still is not being very welcoming. I still haven't seen this little cub feed on meat yet, although Tristan did, and Tristan saw, I think, the first time, warthog, and that was about a week or 2 ago. So, surprised that Mom's not sharing. She's definitely old enough to be eating meat. Irie, you would like to know how much food does a leopard eat per day? Well, it all depends on how lucky they are. Every day, but it's not easy for them to catch food, so some days they will not eat for 2 or 3 days, and that's the same with lion and cheetah. They don't need to eat every day. Their lives don't have the same routine as us. They don't have breakfast, lunch and supper, but they kind of eat whenever they can. But to kind of give you an idea of how much food a leopard needs to eat, once their belly is full, that would be about 20 pounds of meat, and that will last them for 3 to 5 days. But they do need to be able to eat themselves until their stomachs are very big, because they need to gobble up their food before the lions or hyena come and steal it. Now, are we going to see this little cub pounce on Mom? It looks like she's thinking about it. She's creeping up on her. Of course, Mom knows exactly where she is, but this little cub is doing its best to try and give Mom a little bit of a fright. But now she's also chewing on some branches. And a typical young, curious cat just wanting to explore and have a good time. But Mom is not being very welcoming with her cub's plans. Okay, well, exciting stuff with Tristan and those alarm calls. We were chatting about the behavior we look for when searching for leopards, and I'm hoping he's going to get lucky before the end of the safari. They certainly are. I'm just trying to get us into a better spot, but we're not going to need to, because the cub's taken off its own little piece of meat. And how cool is that? Mom eventually finished her dinner and allowed the cub to come down, and she just took off her little tasty morsel there. So I'm glad the cub's finally getting to snack down on meat, and this is actually the first time that I'm seeing this. It's definitely well into the period of her eating meat. Ah, Lindsay, You'd like to know what is my favorite animal? Tricky question. It's probably out of the big cats. Well, it's definitely out of the big cats. The leopard, then the cheetah, then the lion. And that question is impossible to answer because there's so many different types of sighting things. But the coolest thing I've seen a leopard do is probably have a tug of war with its meal and a hyena. That was very exciting. It was actually not too far from here, and it was one of this leopard called Thandi, one of her younger stepbrothers. I think it was Quarantine, maybe Djuma, who was wrestling with a hyena over an Inyala carcass. That was about 2 years ago. But we get so spoiled here, Lindsay. We see so many incredible things. Well, then I'd suggest you follow along for more of these Safari Live adventures, because we really do get very, very lucky with some. And just creep forward a little bit so Ferg can show you Thandi for the last few seconds. There she is. Be sure to tune in and follow us on our Nat Geo TV show tomorrow. We need all